Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be tackling the wild world of multi-cloud Kubernetes.
Okay.
It's a challenge that a lot of you are facing out there, trying to make Kubernetes work
Right.
smoothly across all these different clouds and keep everything secure.
Yeah,
So we're going to be talking about solutions today,
absolutely.
not just buzzwords.
Yeah.
So we've got some really interesting information from Aviatrix,
Right.
fresh from KubeCon North America 2024.
Yeah.
They're tackling some of the biggest headaches
Mm-hmm.
in multi-cloud Kubernetes, things like IP exhaustion
Oh, yeah. Huge.
and the need for super fast connectivity between all those clusters.
Between clusters. Yep.
So let's get into it.
Okay.
Can you kind of paint us a picture of how we even got to this multi-cloud world in the first place?
Yeah. So the evolution of cloud computing has been really fascinating.
Yeah.
And you go back 18 years ago and it was all about single cloud deployments. And then we went to primary cloud and now we're in a whole new area.
Right.
True multi-cloud deployments because organizations are realizing that different clouds have different strengths and they want to use the best tool for the job. So this is driving the shift to multi-cloud.
So this is something that companies are choosing to do.
Yes, very much.
Now, it sounds like this shift to multi-cloud hasn't always been smooth sailing, though.
No, you're absolutely right. Many companies have backed into using multiple clouds
wow.
without really planning for it, and now they're dealing with the consequences.
Oh, so they didn't need to get here.
Yes, sometimes it just happens organically.
Okay.
And managing all that complexity isn't easy. And then you throw Kubernetes into the mix
Right.
with its power and flexibility, and it adds another layer of challenges, especially in a multi-cloud environment.
I bet.
Yeah.
So let's dive into those challenges a little bit.
Okay.
What are some of the biggest roadblocks people are hitting when they're trying to make Kubernetes work seamlessly across multiple clouds?
So one of the biggest issues is IP address exhaustion. When you have all these different Kubernetes clusters running across multiple clouds, you can quickly run out of IP addresses.
I can imagine.
And then there's the problem of overlapping IPs.
Okay.
You've got different clusters, maybe using the same IP range, and that can cause major conflicts.
Yeah, that sounds like a mess.
It can be
So IP addresses are a big deal.
definitely a pain point.
Okay, what else are we up against here?
Security is a huge concern.
Okay,
You need to make sure that communication between those clusters is secure,
right.
and you need to be able to enforce consistent security policies across all of your environments.
So it sounds like multi-cloud Kubernetes is a bit of a tightrope walk.
It can be, yeah.
How are companies even approaching these problems?
So there are a few different approaches, but one that's gaining a lot of traction is using a controller-based solution.
Okay.
Aviatrix, for example, offers a controller
Mm-hmm.
that helps to simplify multi-cloud Kubernetes networking. They use something called intent-based policies, which essentially means you tell the system what you want to achieve,
Okay.
and it takes care of the technical details. That's pretty slick.
Intent-based policies. So can you break that down a little bit?
Sure.
How does that actually work in practice?
So imagine you have two Kubernetes clusters
Okay,
in different clouds that need to communicate securely.
got it.
With intent-based policies, you would define the desired outcome, allow traffic between these two clusters, but only on specific ports and with encryption.
Okay.
And the Aviatrix controller would then automatically configure the network to make that happen.
So it's like having a smart assistant
Yeah,
for your multi-cloud Kubernetes network.
exactly.
It just takes care of all that complex configuration behind the scenes.
Yeah, it handles all the details for you.
Based on your high-level intentions,
Mhm.
that could save a lot of time and headaches,
Absolutely.
especially in a dynamic environment like Kubernetes, where things are always changing.
Because Kubernetes is all about scaling up and down on demand, new pods popping up all the time.
Exactly. So how does a controller like this keep up with all of that change?
That's where the real magic comes in. Aviatrix's solution is designed to be incredibly dynamic. So as your Kubernetes resources change,
Mm-hmm.
the policies update automatically,
Oh,
ensuring that everything stays connected and secure. And we're talking updates happening in seconds. Yep, it's super fast.
that's seriously impressive.
Yeah, it has to be to keep up with Kubernetes.
So it sounds like they've really cracked the code on keeping up with the speed of Kubernetes.
I think so.
But what about the scale?
Oh,
We're talking about managing connections across multiple clouds.
right, and potentially a ton of clusters.
How many virtual networks are their customers actually managing with this system?
Get ready for this. Some of their customers are managing over 1,000 VPCs.
1,000 VPCs.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a mind-boggling number of interconnected networks.
It's a lot to keep track of, for sure.
So it definitely sounds like Aviatrix is onto something here.
They're definitely solving some real-world problems.
We're going to take a quick break.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break.
And we'll be back in a moment.
But when we come back, we're going to get into some specific examples of how Aviatrix is actually making a difference for companies using multi-cloud Kubernetes. So stick with us.
Sounds good.
All right, so before the break, we were talking about how Aviatrix is helping companies solve some of the biggest challenges in multi-cloud Kubernetes.
Some pretty complex stuff.
Yeah, so can you give us some real-world examples of how their solution is actually being used out there?
Absolutely. One of the most common use cases we see is around simplifying connectivity between Kubernetes clusters in different clouds. Companies want to be able to move data and workloads seamlessly between their environments. And Aviatrix makes that a lot easier. So it's not just about connecting the clusters, it's about making that connection secure and reliable.
Exactly. Security is always top of mind.
What kind of companies are using this?
We're seeing a lot of interest from industries that handle sensitive data, like finance and healthcare. For them, security is paramount.
Yeah, of course.
Aviatrix allows them to create secure tunnels between their clusters, ensuring that data is always encrypted in transit.
That makes sense, but I'm also curious about the performance aspect.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that high bandwidth connectivity is essential in multi-cloud Kubernetes.
Absolutely, it's critical.
So how does Aviatrix address that?
They've actually developed some pretty innovative ways to optimize network performance.
Okay.
One thing they do is leverage something called overlay networking. It essentially creates a virtual network on top of the physical infrastructure.
So it's like building a dedicated highway
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
for your Kubernetes traffic,
Exactly.
bypassing any potential bottlenecks on the underlying network.
Exactly. And this is especially important for things like data-intensive applications
Okay.
or real-time analytics, where every millisecond counts.
I can imagine.
Yeah, latency is a killer in those scenarios.
It sounds like Aviatrix is addressing a lot of the technical challenges here. But what about the human side of things? Yeah, multi-cloud Kubernetes can be complex to manage.
It can be, for sure.
How does their solution help with that?
They have a centralized management console that gives you visibility and control over your entire multi-cloud Kubernetes network.
So instead of having to jump between different cloud consoles and tools,
It can be a real mess.
you have a single pane of glass to manage everything.
Exactly. One place to see it all.
And it also helps to reduce errors and improve consistency.
Oh, for sure.
You can define your policies once and apply them across all of your environments.
Exactly.
We know that containers are a fundamental part of Kubernetes,
They're the building blocks.
but they also bring their own set of networking and security challenges.
They do.
How does Aviatrix help companies address those challenges?
So Aviatrix takes a multi-layered approach to container security.
Okay.
They provide microsegmentation capabilities, which allow you to create secure boundaries around individual containers or groups of containers.
So it's like having mini firewalls around each container, limiting the blast radius if a breach occurs.
Exactly. You want to contain any potential damage.
And they also offer things like network policy enforcement and intrusion detection and prevention systems
Yes. All those things are part of their solution.
to further enhance security.
It's about having a comprehensive approach.
This all sounds really impressive.
It is a powerful platform.
And what about cost? We all know that cloud costs can quickly spiral out of control.
Oh, yeah. They can get away from you.
So,
It's true that Aviatrix does come with a cost, but you have to weigh that against the benefits it provides, the
Wow.
time and resources you save on managing your multi-cloud Kubernetes network.
okay.
The improved security and the performance gains can often outweigh the cost.
So it's about finding that sweet spot,
Because
balancing cost with the value that the solution brings to the table.
it's a cost-benefit analysis.
And at the end of the day, every company needs to evaluate whether Aviatrix is the right fit
Exactly.
for their specific needs and requirements. Okay, that makes sense. Now, before we move on to our final thoughts, I'm curious about your take on the future of multi-cloud Kubernetes.
Oh.
What trends are you seeing? And what do you think the next few years hold for this technology?
One of the biggest trends we're seeing is the growing importance of edge computing.
What does that look like in the context of multi-cloud Kubernetes?
So imagine a global network of edge locations, each running Kubernetes clusters. This allows you to process data closer to the source, reducing latency and improving performance for applications.
Okay.
It's a perfect match for multi-cloud strategies because you can choose the best cloud provider for each edge location.
So instead of all that data traveling back and forth to a central cloud,
Yeah.
it can be processed locally,
Exactly.
making applications faster and more responsive.
Much more efficient.
That's exciting. But I imagine managing and securing these edge deployments adds yet another layer of complexity
It does.
in multi-cloud Kubernetes.
It's a challenge for sure. But that's where solutions like those offered by Aviatrix become even more critical.
Okay.
Their controller-based approach can extend to the edge, giving you a unified way to manage and secure your entire multi-cloud Kubernetes network.
So from the core to the edge.
Exactly, a single pane of glass for everything.
It sounds like we're moving towards a world where the lines between cloud and edge are blurring.
I think that's a good way to put it.
And that's why it's so important to have a solid networking and security foundation
Absolutely.
that can adapt to this ever-changing landscape.
You need a solution that can keep up.
So much to think about. Okay, let's wrap things up. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From the challenges of multi-cloud Kubernetes to the innovative solutions that companies like Aviatrix are developing.
It's an exciting space to be in.
It really is. Listener, what are your biggest takeaways from our conversation?
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Where do your own multi-cloud Kubernetes challenges lie? Are you facing IP exhaustion?
Or security concerns?
Difficulty managing those containerized workloads across different environments? We'd love to hear about your experiences
Definitely.
and the solutions you're exploring. Drop us a line on social media.
Or leave a comment on the show notes.
And hey, if you're intrigued by Aviatrix and want to learn more, we'll include a link to their website in the show notes. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.